Hello and welcome to K-Town Talking. I am K-Town Casey, and we're just going to jump straight into it yet again for episode 2. Today I wanted to talk about, the early outlook on 2026 and see, possible routes of what if we have Joey, what if we don't have Joey, what's Deshaun Bishop going to do? What is Coach Knowles going to do? So we're going to break this down really quick here. So start off with this morning, I made a YouTube short on it, but Marcos Garza is quoted saying, "The Tennessee trade laws state that you cannot be infringed upon by any agency if you are a student." This is in reference to Joey Aguilar's court case against the NCAA for one more year of eligibility so he can come back and play for Tennessee. Garza goes on to say, "It's so wide open, it's such a strong argument that a judge, at least in my opinion, has to grant the injunction." Marcos Garza is an attorney in the Knoxville area, very well trusted, and you kind of just trust the guy if you are, you just believe the guy if you are from Knoxville. And so to start off, that's extremely encouraging on Joey's case. I think that it is almost a guarantee. I would put my personal opinion at a 90% chance that Joey does get to come back. But what if he doesn't? That's what I'm going to get into a little later, as it's not really something that I want to think about. But I do believe that Joey will come back for the 2026 season. Firstly, I want to get into Coach Knowles. Coach Knowles, I'm very excited. I love me some defense. Tennessee has always been elite defensively. And Coach Knowles brings that elite defensive play caller side of things to Tennessee. I truly do believe. And, Coach Knowles at his schools, I believe his worst season ever, at least from what I've gathered, his worst season ever at the Division I level, he allowed 29 points per game. Whoa, 29 points per game? That's very good as a seasoned defensive coordinator, and you're telling me his worst ever at the Division I level was 29 points a game. Then, in recent history, Coach Knowles coached 3 seasons at Ohio State, and each season he got better. It was 26 points per game, 24 points per game, and 21 points per game. And he's a national champion. I mean, he's a national championship winning defensive coordinator. And back when Tennessee went up against Ohio State, they were, I believe, number 11 offense in the country, and they got held to, was it 17 points? Yeah, 17 points Tennessee got held to. So Coach Knowles, of course, there's the complaints of his system's hard to learn. His system is too complex for the players. His system is too unique. It's not smash mouth defense. It can be kind of floaty and trying to bleed clock, not take away the ball. Say what you want. If he is holding the number 11 offense in the nation to 17 points, yes, it's in the cold, whatever, it's still 17 points. Jim Knowles is obviously a high-caliber defensive coordinator. Of course, last season, he gets paid a bunch of money to go to Penn State, and then at the end of the season, Tennessee pays him. Okay, Coach Knowles is now on campus. Coach Knowles starts recruiting players out of the portal, and Coach Knowles now has, I believe it was 11 recruits out of the portal. Oh my goodness. Like, he just got an entire new lineup. 11 defensive recruits out of the portal. And that's not very common. That's just not very common. And Jim Knowles runs a 4-2-5 system, and it's a unique 4-2-5. And 4-2-5 is the defensive system that really makes me feel like our players aren't going to be getting as tired, because it's a zone heavy, but when you run man, you still have deep zones almost every time. You don't see a lot of this cover zero, and people aren't having to run. And then when he runs a blitz, he's still using 4 safeties deep, sometimes 3 safeties deep. He'll shift up one to make him a cornerback, whatever. It's worked. It has worked at every school he's been to. And you're telling me that he can get us better than giving up 39 points a game. I'm all for it. Get us better than 39 points a game. Let's go back to the playoff. No matter who is at quarterback, that's what I'll talk about in a minute. Talk about, the different options that we have at quarterback. But no matter who we have at quarterback, you give me 25 points a game, 27 points a game, and our offense scores 30, that's 10-2 easily, and that gets us right back into the playoffs. And I'm very excited about Coach Knowles. And here's the thing that makes me worry much less about Coach Knowles teaching these players his system. Coach Knowles brought in a player at each level of the defense from Penn State. So they have a year of experience under Coach Knowles. He brought in a defensive lineman, he brought in a linebacker, and he brought in a safety. Also, he gets an elite safety/cornerback out of Kansas State, and he needed that guy in there to play in his nickel package whenever he runs it. And these guys from Penn State, these 3 guys from Penn State that he brought in, they can spread the word to the other guys on defense and teach them, don't do it this way, open your hips and you'll run faster if this breaks down in the play. Like, it's a very great thing that he's gotten one player from each level of the defense, because especially, during this offseason, he can be busy recruiting. One of our players that's, been at Tennessee under Tim Banks or has transferred in from another school can call Coach Knowles. Coach Knowles goes, "Hey, man, I got to go. I'm sorry. I can't talk to you right now. I'm in the middle of meeting a recruit." These guys can call, say, the edge rusher if they're a pass rusher, and they can go, "Okay, how does this work, man? Because I don't understand it." And he says, "Well, I'm not Coach Knowles, but I at least know this much about when he coached me back at Penn State." That right there makes me feel really great about the defense, even in year 1, and it's gotten better yearly at every school he's been at. So Coach Knowles, very, very excited about him, and I might do an entire episode sometime down the road on Coach Knowles. Let's move right into Joey Aguilar. Is now going to go into 2026. If he wins his case, he's going to go into 2026, and he's going to be healthy, fully healthy. If you don't know, Joey Aguilar had a benign tumor on his throwing arm, but it wasn't really benign. He is, I don't know if quoted is the word, but he has said that at times his entire arm would just be numb while he was playing football. He said late into the season, as the tumor got slightly bigger during the season, even though it was benign. But he said later into the season that instead of being numb after throwing, 15 passes, it would just be in searing pain. And when you would see his face kind of twinge when he would throw the ball 40 yards down the field, that wasn't an effort. The dude's got a cannon of an arm, but when he was throwing it 40 yards down the field and grimacing, that's because his arm was in pain, not just numbness. And so you're telling me you give me a healthy Joey Aguilar, you give me Deshaun Bishop back, you give me Dwayne Morris back, you give me Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, Radarius Jackson, maybe some Tristan Keys in there. We're looking at a college football playoff just on our offense alone. The ceiling is space for this Tennessee team. There is no ceiling for this Tennessee team high enough other than the national championship and an undefeated season. That's your ceiling right now with Coach Knowles and with a healthy Joey Aguilar and having all the pieces back that we're going to have. But if we don't have Joey, and this is not something I even want to speak into existence, but if we don't have Joey, what happens? What happens? How does our offense break down? Well, I think it's just a very simple answer. It's George McIntyre. George McIntyre was a 5-star prospect out of high school for a long time. A long time, I think for over a year. George McIntyre, in the 2023 high school season, had a 67.8% completion percentage with 3,229 yards. Okay, that's really impressive. In the 2024 season, George McIntyre seemed to regress a little bit, and at the end of the season, he lost a star. But still, 65.6% completion percentage and 2,700 yards. That's pretty impressive, in my opinion. That is an impressive season still. From 247 Sports, the writer Andrew Ivins, he writes, 2023 as a junior, completed 285 of 423 pass attempts for 3,229 yards with 25 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, rushing for 3 touchdowns. That's good numbers. That interception total is high. Now, I didn't watch his high school games. I don't know if those, much like Aguilar's in college this last season, if, 6 of those, 7 of those, 10 of those were off of tip passes. But that is a high interception number. But he also scored you 28 touchdowns. So seems like more of a help than a hindrance. Over his career, he had 8,293 yards with 62 touchdowns. I couldn't find his 2024 stats. But, funny enough, in his first year as a starter in high school, he completed 175 of 270 pass attempts, 64.8% completion, for 2,341 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. So he's taking care of the ball much, much more in 2022. I just realized I said I couldn't find any of his 2024 stats, but I could not find his interception or touchdown total for 2024. My mistake. I misspoke slightly there. But George McIntyre, based off of his high school stats, they're strange. They're a little inconsistent because, some would go to say that his first year, 2022, was his best year. I mean, 175 for 270, 2,341 yards, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That in college can win you a bunch of ball games, but I mean, 2023, many more touchdowns, 25 touchdowns, 28 with his 3 rushing touchdowns, but 12 interceptions. Those 12 interceptions are going to lose you some games in college. And then 2024 couldn't find the interception or the touchdown total, but 2,700 yards, 65.6% completion. I don't know his stats for 2024, but that's still a solid performance, at least yardage wise. But the fact that he regressed in completion percentage slightly, albeit, but slightly, but the fact that he regressed in 2024, 2,700 yards and 65.6% completion, that's a little strange because, arguments can be made that 22 and 23 were his best seasons. But 2024, he drops off on completion percentage and passing yards from 2023. Not sure where that comes from, but overall, man, George McIntyre, the difference between Joey and George is George McIntyre, the ceiling is just as high as Joey, but the floor is most likely much lower. George McIntyre can get out there and throw 35 picks in a season. You don't think that Joey Aguilar is going to do that. I mean, you're just about sure Joey Aguilar does not throw 35 interceptions. That just doesn't happen. But George McIntyre could. 100% George McIntyre could. But George McIntyre can also go out there, throw for 45 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, for 73% completion percentage, 3,500 yards, and take us straight to the national championship. But you know who else could? Joey Aguilar. And you know who is probably more likely to, which is Joey Aguilar. And that's why Vols fans want Joey back, or at least 85% of us do. I've seen quite a few insane comments by Tennessee fans about Joey. But next, what if there's no improvement on defense? And my opinion on this is the offense, if Joey Aguilar comes back and there's no improvement on defense, I would say that 10-2 is the absolute ceiling. We could have won the Georgia game this season. We could have won the Oklahoma game this season. But 10-2 is probably the ceiling if there's no improvement on defense. But you have to think that the guy who his worst season was 29 points per game, Jim Knowles' worst season was 29 points per game as a coordinator. You have to think that guy is going to get you better than 39 points a game allowed. So Jim Knowles is going to improve on defense, but if he doesn't, somehow, some way, there's no improvement, 10-2 is the ceiling. And it doesn't matter who's at quarterback, I could believe in 10-2 is the ceiling, because personally, I feel like the offense has very marginally, yes, but marginally gotten better. I just have a gut feeling that Joey Aguilar stays behind. Joey Aguilar is healthy now if Joey Aguilar stays behind. Dwayne Morris gets a year better. Deshaun Bishop gets a year better, on the practice field, but gets another year of experience in practice, and, all of your wide receivers get another year of practice. You get Tristan Keys. Offense, I think, improves a little bit because now you have a go ball that is possibly a little bit better, and you have a kid that can make some amazing flying catches in Radarius Jackson. And so, Rad Jackson, I'm excited to see play. I think he's going to be my guy to watch. 2026 is going to be Radarius Jackson. But next, I think I'm going to go completely impromptu now. I have had notes, at least general notes. I mean, very small, not even 3 full sticky notes of notes so far. But now I'm going to go completely impromptu. I'm going to talk about Deshaun Bishop. Deshaun Bishop had over 1,000 yards in the 2025 football season. And Deshaun Bishop can kind of do it all. He doesn't seem to be able to run people over, but he's so quick. His evasiveness is superb. And I just feel like Deshaun Bishop is going to have another amazing season. We're going to have 1,500 yards on the ground just on that one man. Deshaun Bishop is going to get 1,500 yards. And I'm going to predict 15 touchdowns because if I look up his stats here, Deshaun Bishop had... Well, I mean, in 2025, he was electric. And in 2026, I think he can possibly improve on that performance. Seriously, 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. His stats for the 2025 season were 1,076 yards, 16 touchdowns, 182 carries, and a 5.9 yard average. Whoa. I mean, just lit up the field. Had a 50-yard run that season in the 2025 season. Imagine he gets 1,500. So he had 16 touchdowns. Say he gets 20. Say he gets 20 touchdowns. I mean, my goodness. And even something you wouldn't think about, he has 135 yards through the air through 15 receptions. He couldn't catch a pass the first half of the season, and that's a slight bit on Joey. He was throwing some high ones in desperation, trying to force a check down, but he might become a little bit of a weapon through the air. I mean, Deshaun Bishop, sky's the limit for this guy, and the sky is the limit for this Tennessee football team. And as a Tennessee fan, I love talking about this team, and I'm going to maybe get on to some other teams later, but today I wanted to make it primarily Tennessee episode. And they're also right now in that stage in the entirety of college football where Tennessee can either go to the moon and win it all, or they can go 6-6. And it's not an easy schedule. But it's not an overly difficult schedule either. It feels like it's now for Tennessee or it's 2028. That's my 2 predictions. 2027, you don't have a chance because I think at least from right now, the 2027 football season, it looks like Tennessee is going to be looking at no Mike Matthews, no Braylon Staley, all of your transfers that you've gotten for the 26 season, I think all but 2 of them are out of eligibility. You lose a bunch of people. So it is 2026 or it is 2028, because 2027, most likely, some things could happen, and of course, any team, any season can win it all. But 2027, I don't see anything happening for Tennessee. But 2026 is the year, if they go to the playoff at least, they turn right back around into the dynasty that they used to be. And if they have a bad season next year, I don't want to say it. Again, another thing I don't want to speak into existence, but possibly another 5 to 10 years in the dumps. 2026 is the year for Tennessee football. It is the program-defining year, in my opinion, because you've gotten everyone. You've gotten the strength coach, Derek Owings. You've gotten Jim Knowles. You've gotten all these transfers. You have a mentor at each position. You have these wonderful wide receivers. If Joey Aguilar comes back, this Tennessee team is either playoff, possible national championship, or they have a bad 2026, bad 2027, possibly. If they have a bad 2026, that sets up a bad 2027. That most likely sets up a mediocre 2028. And if it's a mediocre 2028, then it's a bad 29 and bad 30, and you just snowball right back into the dumps you were for 15. Yeah, 15. You want to say 20 years. So this is winning time for Tennessee football. And I think that's it for me today. I don't have any James Pierce Jr. rants. I don't have any rants about anything. It was kind of a quiet day. There wasn't a lot that happened, at least that I know of, other than, the dose of good news this morning on Joey. And also, if the NCAA-wide case to change this rule of JUCO forever, to make it JUCO does not count towards the rest of the NCAA eligibility. If that happens, Joey Aguilar can dismiss he can just quit. He can just quit his case, drop the charge, or not the charges, but drop the prosecution against the NCAA. He can just say, okay, I have another year now, because he would. He might actually have 2 more years, but either way, if the case goes through at the national level with all these athletes that are suing on the same premise, on the exact same premise as Pavia, if the rule changes, Joey Aguilar doesn't even have to worry about court. But February the 13th is the Joey Aguilar hearing, the preliminary hearing, possibly a same-day verdict, at least from what I understand. I'm not sure. But personally, the overall take on Tennessee football is 2026 is winning time. And if you don't have success in 2026, at least 9-3. Now, if they go to a playoff, that's a lot better, but at least 9-3. If you don't turn the corner, that's okay. But I do think this team goes 10-2, possibly 11-1. That's the prediction I'm going to stick with for a while, is probably 11-1. Because everything is set up in Tennessee's favor, especially if they get Joey Aguilar back. If we roll with GMAC, so be it. I'm not worried about this Tennessee football team having at least 9 wins. But things can go wrong and things can snowball. And so this has to be that season where they turn the corner and get back to the playoff. It doesn't matter if they go to the championship. Of course, everybody, well, not everybody, but everybody in Tennessee wants to see them go and at least get to the national championship, if not win the thing. And if we get Joey Aguilar back, man, that's a possibility. That's absolutely on the table. National champions is a possibility for Tennessee. But that's all I have to say for the day. And, yeah, Joey Aguilar's hearing on the 13th, and possibly the NCAA-wide lawsuit changes the rule, and he can just sit back and get ready for the 2026 season. If that goes through and goes in the athlete's favor, then 2026, we just roll right in with Joey Aguilar and don't even have to worry about it. So, anyway, absolutely extreme excitement for the 2026 season. I am fired up for the defense. I'm fired up for the offense. I'm ready to go win some football games. I'm ready to see 12 wins, and that's where I'm going to end it. That's all I have to say. I've enjoyed getting this off my chest. Hope this made your Tuesday a little better. Don't forget to keep God first. I love y'all. Peace out.